Today I'm going to be reading From an Idea to Google by Loie Bundy Sickle. I'll be reading chapters 1 and 2. Have you ever wondered what the business story behind Google is? You probably use Google every day in one way or another. You undoubtedly look for information with Google search. Maybe you also have a Gmail email account. You might post your schoolwork on Google Docs, and your parents probably get directions and check traffic through Google Maps. Today, Google is the most popular website in the world. There are close to 4 million Google searches every minute, which comes out to over 2 trillion Google searches each year. And Google is much more than a search engine. It owns more than 100 different products that help make billions of people's lives better and easier. But before Google changed our lives, it was just an idea that two friends, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, had while they were studying computer science at Stanford University. This is the story of Google and how it grew from an idea to the most valuable company in the world. Chapter 1, Larry Page. Larry's childhood. Larry Page was born on March 26, 1973, in East Lansing, Michigan, the hometown to Michigan State University. Larry's parents were dedicated and devoted to both Larry and his older brother, Carl Jr. They encouraged creativity and intellectual conversation, and they valued nothing more than a good education. Larry's father, Dr. Carl Page, was the first person in his family to graduate high school and attend college. A gifted mathematician, Carl studied engineering and was a pioneer in the field of computer science, earning one of the first computer science PhDs from the University of Michigan. Carl went on to teach computer science at Michigan State University. Larry's mother, Gloria Page, was passionate about computer science as well. She taught computer programming at Lyman Briggs College, a residential college at Michigan State University. As a child, Larry had the same distinctive characteristics he does today: short, straight black hair, thick, dark eyebrows, and a big, toothy smile. Larry attended the Okemos Montessori School in Okemos, Michigan, where he had the freedom to self-direct his education and explore school subjects independently. The environment was perfect for quirky, quiet, and curious Larry. Back at home, Larry was immersed in a world of computers. He explained, "I was really lucky that my father was a computer science professor, which was unusual for someone my age." One day in 1978, Carl Page purchased and brought home the family's first computer, an Exidy Sorcerer. Larry remembers, "It was huge and it cost a lot of money, and we couldn't afford to eat well after that." As a young boy, Larry began experimenting with the Exidy Sorcerer. Larry's brother, Carl Jr., recalled, "One of the early things I remember Larry doing was typing frog and toad together into his computer, one word at a time." As Larry got older, he became even more interested in computers. He started doing his homework on the family's latest computer and printing it out. His teachers were both amazed and confused. No child had ever done that before. When Carl Jr. came home from the University of Michigan with college-level computer homework, he let 9-year-old Larry help him try to solve it. Larry and Carl Jr. were a curious duo, often finding items in their house and taking them apart just to figure out how they worked. One day, Larry and Carl took apart all the family's power tools. In addition to occasionally deconstructing power tools, Larry read books, as well as the computer, science, and technology magazines left around by his parents. When Larry was 12 years old, he read a book that brought him to tears and would go on to make a big impact in his future. The book was about the brilliant inventor and engineer Nikola Tesla. Tesla was best known for inventing the alternating current electrical system that's used today. However, Tesla never figured out how to create a sustainable business around his inventions and died with little money, fame, or success. Moved by Tesla's tragic ending, Larry began to understand how innovation alone is not enough. And innovation is a revolutionary new way of doing something. This could be a new idea, a new method, or a new product. The key to success was to combine innovative technologies with a successful business strategy. Larry attended East Lansing's McDonald Middle School and then East Lansing High School. When he wasn't working hard at school or tinkering with computers, Larry enjoyed music. He played the saxophone and spent 2 summers at Interlochen Center for the Arts studying music composition. Over time, Larry developed a passion for time, rhythm, and speed in music, which eventually carried over to the way he thought about computing. After graduating high school in 1991, Larry attended the University of Michigan. Larry received excellent grades and earned several academic honor awards. He was president of the University of Michigan chapter of Eta Kappa Nu, a national honor society for computer engineering students. Larry was also a member of the University of Michigan solar car team, the Maize and Blue, and became interested in the future of transportation. At one point, Larry shared his vision for a monorail system that would run between buildings and campuses at the university. Although the monorail was never built, Larry did become a minor celebrity on campus after he built a working inkjet printer entirely out of Lego bricks. By the time Larry graduated from the University of Michigan, his only work experience was helping out with the donut stand to raise money for Eta Kappa Nu. Chapter 2. Sergey Brin. Sergey's childhood. Sergey Brin was born on August 21st, 1973 in Moscow, Russia. Sergey was born during a time when Russia was part of a group of countries called the Soviet Union, led by a communist government. The Soviet Union prevented Jewish people like Sergey's parents from studying certain subjects at school or holding certain jobs. And communism is a type of government and economic system in which the government, not individual people, owns and controls everything, including land and factories. Everyone is required to share the wealth that they create in an attempt to establish an equal way of life among everyone. Sergey's father, Mikhail Brin, had always dreamed of being an astronomer, but the Soviet Union forbade him from studying physics, a key subject in astronomy. Instead, Mikhail studied mathematics and attended Moscow State University, which had a very prestigious program. After graduating, Mikhail was again forbidden by the Soviet Union to pursue his goals, which this time was working at the space program. Mikhail settled for a job with the Russian Economic Policy Planning Agency, a job he despised. Sergey's mother, Yevgenia Brin, also studied mathematics at Moscow State University, and she took a job in a research laboratory at the Soviet Gas and Oil Institute. Despite Mikhail and Yevgenia's high education and respectable jobs, they felt trapped and could only afford to live in a very small apartment that they shared with Sergey's grandmother, Maya. In 1977, Mikhail attended an international mathematics conference in Poland. It was there that he met researchers and mathematicians from around the world and realized there were endless opportunities outside of the Soviet Union. When Mikhail returned home, he announced that the Brin family was going to emigrate. He wanted Sergey, Yevgenia, Maya, and himself to be free to pursue their dreams and experience a better life. In 1979, the Brin family left most of their possessions behind and moved halfway around the world to the United States. Sergey was 6 years old and only spoke Russian when the family settled in a blue-collar neighborhood in Maryland, near Washington, D.C. Sergey explained, "We started with nothing. We were poor. When we first moved to the States, we rented a little house, and my parents didn't have a proper room to sleep in. They had to wall off the kitchen. It was a very humble beginning." Despite the hard times, Mikhail and Yevgenia kept their sense of humor, often laughing and joking around with each other, a characteristic that would soon rub off on Sergey. Mikhail, who changed his name to Michael when he arrived in the United States, and Yevgenia, who changed her name to Eugenia, started to look for work. Fortunately, Russian mathematicians were highly regarded and sought after in the United States. Michael took a job teaching mathematics at the University of Maryland. Eugenia became a scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. One of the projects she worked on was studying how weather conditions affect space travel. Sergey also settled into a routine. He attended Paint Branch Montessori School in Adelphi, Maryland. At school, Sergey was creative, confident, and fascinated by numbers. Montessori school allowed Sergey to learn at his own pace, which for Sergey was quite fast. In fact, sometimes Sergey became bored at school, especially in math. It was all too simple for him. To help keep Sergey engaged, Michael and Eugenia began teaching him advanced mathematics and computer programming at school after school. For his 9th birthday, Sergey received a very rare gift from his parents, a personal computer called the Commodore 64. By the time Sergey entered middle school, he could solve graduate-level math problems and had been labeled by educators as a math genius. Sergey attended Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Greenbelt, Maryland, where he often tried to prove his teachers wrong in front of the other students. Sergey graduated a year early from high school and was accepted into the University of Maryland. Then, while most students take 4 years to finish college, Sergey graduated in just 3 years, with high honors in mathematics and honors in computer science. Sergey's impressive marks earned him a National Science Foundation Graduate Fellowship, which allowed him to continue his education at Stanford University. When Sergey arrived at Stanford's prestigious graduate program, he had already mastered many of the courses needed to graduate, so he started to enjoy life a bit more. He was an athletic young man with a slender build, bushy brown hair, big brown eyes, and a contagious laugh. Sergey took up sailing, practiced gymnastics, and mastered the trapeze. He basked in the California sunshine, socialized with other students, and explored new classes like molecular biology. He also became a tour guide, showing prospective computer science graduate students around the campus. One day, Michael Bryn asked Sergey if he was taking any advanced courses, and Sergey responded, yes, advanced swimming. Love, not at first sight. Although Larry and Sergey were born in different parts of the world and experienced very different childhoods, they still had a lot in common when they first met. Both Larry and Sergey came from highly intellectual Jewish families. Their fathers were both esteemed professors. Each of their mothers had jobs working with computers and technology. They were both educated as young children at Montessori schools. Exposure to computers happened early in both of their lives. They excelled in high school and college, and most important, both Larry and Sergey were passionate about mathematics and computer science. It seemed as if they should become instant friends, but that wasn't what happened. In fact, when Larry and Sergey first met, they didn't like each other at all. The year was 1995. Larry had been admitted to Stanford University to study advanced computer science and was assigned to a tour group. Sergey was his guide. During that tour of Stanford University, Larry and Sergey spent most of the time arguing with each other. Although few know exactly what they argued about, years later, Larry explained how he felt that day. I thought Sergey was pretty obnoxious. He had really strong opinions about things, and I guess I did too. Okay, and our next section will be searching for an idea. We'll read that on the next page.